Shall we have a chat about representation? Hey, hi, hello team. My name is Monique. Welcome to the new and improved, slightly rainbow cauldron that I may change again because apparently I can't make up my fucking mind, but it is appropriate for today's topic. Welcome back to Bookwitch Reviews. Today we are going to talk about queers in fantasy. Specifically female romances, which I adore, but also all of the rest. So I have picked 10 fantasy books that I have read in the last year, or at least roughly around the last year. And lately I have really found that instead of just being the side character or the best friend, which is also fine, it doesn't always have to be the main character, but it's just also nice that they're there, because when I was younger that was definitely not something I read a lot, and I definitely feel like it's important that I can see myself in what I like to read. And since I am not a huge contemporary person, I really love fantasy and I really love sci-fi. These books have literally just like exploded my heart for all of my little gays. Let's get started. Okay, it's Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I love this book. It's stupid, it's silly, it is a caricature of the chosen one trope, and Simon, as they say in the inside, Simon Snow is the worst chosen one who has ever been chosen. He lives in this weird parody of Hogwarts. He's a wizard, he has to fight the evil, and at the same time he also has to fight his nemesis Baz, who is sexy as a mofo. And I love him, and this book is amazing, and I couldn't do this video without talking about it, especially because the second book, Wayward Son, it came out last year. I am very stoked to get into this book, but I'm also scared that it's going to ruin the first book for me, because I read Carry On and I felt it chisel its way into my heart, and I'm just like, the representation is this book is just so calm and like funny, and there's banter, and there's just like, it's so good. It's everything you ever wanted if you were ever on fanfiction.net back when Harry Potter fanfiction was a giant thing, and I will admit to the fact that I'm trash. Next up, we got The Binding by Bridget Collins. This is a magical realism book with a very soft LGBT couple at its core. It is about a boy who becomes a binding apprentice, so it's about bookbinding, but bookbinding has almost magical properties in this book, where they basically can take people's memories and they bind them into books, so the person forgets, but our main character suddenly finds a book with a memory of himself in it. It's one, very heartfelt. Two, it deals with some very tough topics, so I would check the trigger warnings before I would read it if you are interested, but it is also so incredibly beautifully written. Next up, we got Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This book has some delightful bi-representation in it. It is about Elizabeth Scrivener, who is a librarian in a world where books, when they get loose, turn into monsters. And basically she gets dragged into some bad shit and ends up having to go to court to like plead her innocence, where she meets Nathaniel, who is a wizard who she's always heard bad things about. Like, wizards are like, they're big bad, and she sort of learns that maybe they aren't. And this book is so good and so worth the hype, and I know so many people love it dearly. Also because, have you seen this cover? It's fucking beautiful. It's like amazing, but literally so good and such calm. I love calm representation. Sometimes it's not about the sexuality being shoved in your face, which is what I feel a lot happens with contemporary, which I'm guessing is why I'm not a crazy contemporary person. I really love the fact all of these books it's not particularly about the sexuality of the main character. It is about them just living their lives, and them being gay is just like a side note. It's just something that's there, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is the action, it's the plot of the story, but it's just, I have a lot of love. Okay, I have a lot to give. Next up, we got Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, and it is not just about the sexuality, which was my point before. This is a story about Nona Grey, who's kick-ass and a killer nun. Basically, Nona is an orphan who gets sold to this nunnery who churns out or teaches people of faith, but also people who can kill people and sneak around in places and scale walls. Basically, they are everything you would ever want a nun to be. Mark Lawrence has written this beautiful, almost dystopian, almost sci-fi, almost fantasy world, and it is so deep and so rich, and it has aspects of like LGBT and like a healthy relationship between two women, but that's not just all it's about. And the Book of the Ancestor series is so close to my heart, and I didn't know about it till last year, and it's so good, and I would highly recommend it to everyone that I know. Yeah. It's The Orphanage of Gods by Helena Coogan. This is her debut novel. This is my Illumicrate book. I had never heard about it before. It is a magical realism book and is set in the aftermath of a war between gods and humans. And we start the book following Hero, who is a healer. And basically, she's trying to escape this place with her two best friends, her found family. And the aftermath of this war is that there are all of these orphaned children in this school where they are like taught, but they are also tested to see whether or not they are gods. And if they're gods, they get murdered. And this book follows 3 different point of views and like unreliable narrators. There's a young child that's a narrator, and you don't really know how to feel about it. There's also a beautiful friendship, like a female friendship, which is more important than the romance that the book starts off with, and that is so important to me. And when I read this book, almost a little bit like when I read Queens of Innis Lair, I didn't like it. I read it really fast, I finished it, and I was like, I don't know if I really like that. And then I've been thinking about it for the better part of a year since, and I really need a reread. And basically, this book is stunning and a stunning debut, and I can't wait to see what else she comes out with. Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Yang is a fantasy book with a female romance at its heart. It is also a book about sexual assault and strong women and the way that different women can deal with assault. And Girls of Paper and Fire follows Lay, who is a paper caste. There's 3 different castes in this fantasy world: Paper, Steel, and Moon. And Moon is like most monstrous, but they are also the nobility and the emperor. And Lay, who is our main character, ends up becoming a reluctant concubine to an emperor who basically chooses the most beautiful women in the land. This book is about rebellion and strength and sacrifice and friendship and finding love in the most like harsh places almost. And literally, I want to reread this book. I haven't read the second book yet, but I am planning to, and I would highly recommend it if you don't mind tackling some hard topics in your fantasy. We got The Abbot Surrounds Us by Emily Skrotsky. I love this book. I love this author. I feel like she's severely underrated. I also mentioned her new book, Bonds of Brass, in my 10 most anticipated releases because it's coming out sometime this year. I cannot wait for it. But The Abbot Surrounds Us is a teeny tiny little dystopian book that follows a Kaz who is in the family of like these monster tamers. So basically the whole world has been swallowed by water. We live on these giant floating islands and also on yachts, but we also have a high amount of piracy going on. And basically Kaz on her first solo mission ends up being captured by pirates and being talked into having to raise one of these monsters for them. And this book is so good. It has a amazing slow burn romance going on, and basically like this book is just amazing, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who is looking for both female representation in like dystopia, and also just because it's fucking great. We are moving into the sci-fi area of my books, and we are almost at the end, but we got Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. It's a gender-bent retelling of King Arthur and Merlin and the Knights of the Round Table, and it is a ride. Okay, there are some twists and some turns in here I did not see coming. There is so much LGBT rap. It is amazing. And basically, Ari, who is our, I think, 64th or something like that, reincarnation of Arthur, is in space, and there is obviously like an evil overlord they have to throw over, and there's all of the twists and turns that you would think would come with Arthurian legend, coming to terms with who you are and who you love, and Merlin is like growing backwards and becoming younger. And it's a bit like it rushes some aspects, and I think the end turns out something with time turning or time traveling. Maybe. Next up, Gideon the Ninth is about Gideon, who is a swords person in space. I can't figure out if we are in like a dystopia, if we're in a fantasy world, if we're deep into space and sci-fi. Basically, there are these 8 houses who all have necromancer skills, and they all end up having to be brought to this one planet because the emperor, or the god in a way, tells them that he is looking for new warriors, I think. There's a lot of info dumping in the beginning, but literally just like Gideon is the sassiest little bitch I have ever gotten to know, and I adore her. And this book literally takes so many turns. It's also fucking stunning, and I am just like, I don't have enough words for how much I love this book. I also especially love the fact that its sales point is lesbian necromancers explore a haunted gothic palace in space. How fucking amazing does that sound? I know I've spoken about it before, but basically all you need to know about this book is that you should give it a try. And if you love like sci-fi, if you love like kick-ass females, if you love people who just want to stab people with swords, you should read Gideon the Ninth. And then you should pre-order Harrow the Ninth, because I have never been more excited about anything than I did today when I got this book. Last but not least, we got Criers War by Nina Valera. It is a 2019 release. I got this from Owl Crate. So basically, Criers War is about the Autome, who is the perfect human being. They're almost like robots, but not quite, because they are alive. And they basically started out, before the book happened, with being like the pleasure toys of higher nobility, and then they took over, and the book starts with the fact that the Autome are ruling over the humankind, who is a lower class citizen, and Crier is the heir to the Autome throne, but there's also something wrong with her. She has a tendency to feel more, and she doesn't know why. And in from the right comes the angry little lesbian that is Isla, and I love her, and she is human, and she is set for revenge. And this is the first book in a duology, I believe. I believe the second book is coming out hopefully sometimes in 2020. I am like begging. I will put the name of it down below because I can't remember it. But this book is stunning, and it is angsty, and it is YA, and it is everything that I was looking for in like a female almost romance. There is so much slow burn. The writing is amazing, and this is, I believe, Nina Valera's debut, and I'm like stunned. I'm shooked. Okay, I've always wanted to say that in the video. Look at this stack of beautiful babies. You should read all of these, and then you should tell me what you think about them. And if you're looking for any particular representation, give me a shout. I'm basically like, I'm so stoked for what's coming in 2020, and I am so stoked to fall for more little murder babies and gays and lesbians and trans. And I know there's a book calling Stealing Thunder, which I've got to put up here, which is trans rep, and I am so excited. You do not understand how excited I am. So thank you so much for watching today, team. This has been a bit of a ride. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about fantasy and the representation of gay people in there, which is coming and taking the world with storm, and I'm so pumped. So if you like this and if you would like to watch more from me, I try to update my channel at least twice a week. Hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up so that I know that you enjoyed this, and speak soon. Let's speak to each other. Let's be excited about the gays. All right, bye team.